Thanks for the introduction. My name is Rohan, and today I'm going to talk about another new persistent memory file system called SplitFS. So as we have discussed in the previous talks, persistent memory is a non-volatile and fast form of storage. It has access latencies similar to that of DRAM. One way in which applications access persistent memory is through a POSIX file system. The applications access this file system through system calls such as reads, writes, and opens and closes to their files. Furthermore, there are various persistent memory file systems that provide an implementation of the POSIX API. Of particular interest is one mature file system called ext4 DAX. ext4 DAX is the modification of the ext4 file system for persistent memory. It works with all modern Linux kernel versions and is under active development by the ext4 community. Furthermore, it is the only persistent memory file system that is actually widely used. Now let us consider that we want to perform a simple operation of just appending 4 kilobytes of data to a file. On the x-axis, we have different persistent memory file systems, and on the y-axis, we have the time taken in nanoseconds. The time it takes to typically write 4 kilobytes to persistent memory device is around 700 nanoseconds. This means that if a file system writes another block of metadata for the append, then the time taken by the file system will be 1400 nanoseconds. In today's file systems, ext4 DAX actually takes 9000 nanoseconds in order to perform the append. So software overhead is basically the difference in the time taken by the device to the time taken by the file system in performing any operation. Similar to ext4 DAX, the other file systems such as Strata, Nova, and PMFS incur software overheads ranging from 2.5x to 5x. So all state-of-the-art persistent memory file systems suffer from high software overhead. Also, ext4 DAX, although widely used, suffers from the highest software overhead and also provides weaker consistency and durability guarantees as compared to the other file systems. So the goal of this work is that we want to build a persistent memory file system with low software overhead, with strong consistency guarantees, and that can leverage the maturity and the active development of ext4 DAX. To achieve these goals, I present SplitFS, which serves data operations from user space and metadata operations from ext4 DAX in the kernel. SplitFS provides strong guarantees such as atomic and synchronous data operations to applications. SplitFS reduces the software overhead by up to 17x as compared to ext4 DAX and improves application throughput by up to 2x as compared to Nova. Here is the outline for the rest of my talk, and I will first discuss about the target usage scenario for SplitFS. SplitFS is targeted at POSIX applications which use read and write system calls in order to access their data on persistent memory. Please note that this is the most common case POSIX application because they normally use reads and writes in order to access persistent memory. Secondly, SplitFS does not optimize for the case when multiple processes concurrently access the same file. Now, I'll go on to discuss about the high-level design of SplitFS. SplitFS is a file system that lies both in user space as well as in the kernel. All data operations in SplitFS are served from user space, and all metadata operations are routed to ext4 DAX in the kernel. Consider this spectrum of design points for building persistent memory file systems, where on the left end of the spectrum, on your left end, you have file systems that perform all operations in the kernel. For example, ext4 DAX, PMFS, and Nova. The problem with these file systems is that they have low performance. And this is due to complex code paths for common case operations such as reads and writes. On the right end of the spectrum, we have file systems that perform all operations in user space. An example of this is Strata. The problem with Strata is that it has very high complexity because it has to essentially re-implement the entire VFS layer inside user space. ARI is another file system which is slightly different from Strata, in which ARI also in the critical path services all data and metadata operations in user space, but it relies on the kernel for coarse-grained allocations. Also, ARI optimizes for different interfaces for applications than the POSIX interface. SplitFS introduces a new design point in the spectrum of file system designs, where data operations are in user space and metadata operations are in the kernel. Due to this design decision, SplitFS achieves high performance due to fast data operations and low complexity due to relying on ext4 DAGs for metadata operations. I'll talk a bit more about the advantages of the design. The high performance in SplitFS is because of accelerating data operations from user space, and the insight behind this is that typically data operations are common and are relatively simple to implement. On the other hand, metadata operations are rare and are more complex because POSIX has a number of complex corner cases. So we use ext4 DAGs for handling these complex metadata operations. I'll talk a bit more about the high-level design. SplitFS is a file system that consists of two components. The user space component is called usplit, and the kernel component, that is ext4 DAGs, is called ksplit. All the read and write calls made by an application are serviced from the user component usplit, and all the metadata operations such as file creates, deletes, and renames are served from the kernel component ksplit. SplitFS additionally implements a log per application instance in order to provide stronger consistency and durability guarantees. So the high-level takeaways are, SplitFS accelerates common case data operations while leveraging the maturity of ext4 DAGs for metadata operations. Secondly, SplitFS uses logging and out-of-place updates for providing atomic and synchronous operations. Now, I'll talk about how SplitFS handles the various data operations. Let's start with how SplitFS handles reads and updates. When an application first tries to read or update its file, SplitFS internally memory maps a portion of the file into the user space library usplit, and then all subsequent reads and updates are converted into loads and stores directly from usplit. So in the common case, all file reads and updates don't pass through the kernel and are accelerated. Now I'll talk about how SplitFS handles file appends. Consider that we have a file foo in persistent memory. When an application initially starts up, SplitFS creates another file called a staging file corresponding to this that will hold the appends corresponding to file foo. SplitFS then memory maps the staging file into user space component usplit. Note that all this is done in the initialization phase of the application and is not in the critical path of the workload. When an application tries to append data to file foo, SplitFS performs store operations on the staging file directly from usplit. When an application then tries to read the appended data, SplitFS performs load operations from the memory map region of the staging file from usplit. Later, when an application tries to call fsync, SplitFS performs a new system call called relink. Relink first creates an ext4 journal transaction containing the inodes of file foo and staging file. Then, relink atomically moves the extent containing the data of file foo, that is ABC, from the staging file to the file foo. Note that this movement of the extent from staging file to file foo involves no data copies, and it's a purely metadata operation. Also, the ext4 journal transaction is used to provide atomicity for the relink operation. So in the common case, we use the staging files in order to serve file appends from user space, and they don't pass through the kernel. Right, so now that we handled all data operations, I will talk about the different consistency guarantees that SplitFS provides. SplitFS operates in three modes: the POSIX mode, which is similar to ext4 DAGs, the sync mode, which is similar to PMFS, and a strict mode that is similar to Nova and Strata. All the three modes provide metadata atomicity. So all your creates, deletes, and renames are atomic. The sync and the strict mode provide synchronous operations on top of metadata atomicity. So all your system calls are immediately durable in the sync and the strict mode. So when an operation is completed, it is guaranteed to be durable on persistent memory. The third guarantee is data atomicity is provided only in the strict mode. This means that all the updates and the appends are performed out of place, and you don't have a problem of partial writes or data corruption in this mode. The strict mode is the strongest guarantee provided by SplitFS, and it is similar to Nova and Strata. SplitFS uses optimized logging in order to provide stronger guarantees in the sync and the strict mode. I'll talk a bit about the optimized logging now. SplitFS employs a per application log in the sync and the strict mode, which logs every logical operation. In the common case, each log entry in SplitFS fits in one cache line, and each log entry is persisted using a non-temporal store and an sfence instruction. Note that we do not log the data, and we only log metadata for each operation. Another good guarantee that SplitFS provides due to the architecture and logging is that different applications can run concurrently on SplitFS while getting different guarantees from SplitFS. Consider that we have three applications, App1, App2, App3, relying on three different guarantees. These applications can be spawned with different uSplit instances, providing them the guarantees that they need. And the corresponding uSplit instances can service the corresponding applications and provide them the guarantees that they require. This raises a question of when are updates from one application actually visible to another application? The answer to this is all metadata operations are immediately visible to all processes because we handle them through ext4 DAX. All writes are visible to all other processes on a subsequent fsync. So if you have multiple applications trying to access the same file concurrently, then you can use fsync in order to share the data. Furthermore, memory mapped files have the same visibility guarantees as that of ext4 DAX. I'll briefly recap the techniques that we discussed. First, we discussed about SplitFS architecture, which provides low overhead data operations and correct metadata operations. The second is staging and relink, which provides optimized appends without involving data copies. And the third is optimized logging and out-of-place writes for providing stronger guarantees, such as data atomicity and synchronous operations. Now, I'll discuss about the evaluation of SplitFS. We evaluated SplitFS on Intel Optane DC persistent memory, and we compared the performance of SplitFS with ext4 DAX, PMFS, Nova, and Strata. Today, I'll focus on the performance of SplitFS relative to Nova. In the paper, we try to answer three questions. Does SplitFS reduce software overhead compared to other file systems? How does SplitFS perform on data-intensive workloads? And how does SplitFS perform on metadata-intensive workloads? Today, I'll focus on the first two questions, and in the paper, we have details about the performance on metadata-intensive workloads, but to give a one-line summary, SplitFS incurs less than 15% overhead for metadata-intensive workloads. Let's try to answer the first question of of the software overhead incurred by SplitFS. Consider the same simple operation of appending 4 kilobytes to a file as we discussed before, and let's see the software overhead of SplitFS. In this workload, SplitFS, in the most strict mode, which provides data atomicity, metadata atomicity, and synchronous operations, achieves the least software overhead as compared to any other persistent memory file system. This software overhead is just 80% more than the device latency. And this effectively means that SplitFS writes less than one block of metadata per update. Next, We evaluated SplitFS on a number of micro benchmarks, data-intensive workloads, and metadata-intensive workloads. Today, I'll focus on one of the data-intensive workloads, that is YCSB on LevelDB. YCSB is an industry-standard macro benchmark for evaluating databases, and we run YCSB on top of the LevelDB key value store, and we measure the performance of SplitFS and compare it with Nova in the strict mode. The x-axis contains the different workloads in this workload suite with different ratios of reads and writes, and the y-axis contains the throughput of SplitFS normalized to that of Nova. As we can see here, SplitFS outperforms Nova on all of the YCSB workloads in the YCSB suite. I'll focus on one of the read-dominated workloads, that is runC, which contains 100% reads. In this workload, the SplitFS architecture helps convert all reads into mem copies, and this is why SplitFS achieves a 30% performance improvement over Nova. The next workload I will discuss is runA, which consists of 50% reads and 50% writes. In this workload, the staging and relink technique of SplitFS helps performing appends fast, and SplitFS gains about 2x performance improvement over Nova. So to conclude, SplitFS introduces a new architecture for building persistent memory file systems that reduces software overhead, provides strong guarantees, and that leverages the widely used ext4 DAGs. SplitFS has been open sourced on GitHub, and we encourage you to try it out. Thank you, and I will be happy to take questions.
So again, I forgot to mention, Rohan is also looking for summer internships. So if you have interesting projects, make sure to talk to him. So that's open for questions.
Ashley Martinez from University of Washington. So there are some operations that are both writes and metadata operations, like file appends, which increase the file size. So when are these sorts of operations visible? Are they visible at fsync, or when the metadata operation is completed, like, say, a chmod?
Yeah, they are visible on fsync.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Tony Mason, University of British Columbia. So one of the things I noticed in your paper was that you're using this relink operation, and you're using it to move the blocks around. Doesn't that destroy the contiguity of the data on the persistent memory device itself?
Right. It does. You perform relink in the in sizes of blocks, of 4 kilobyte blocks, and that does lead to fragmentation on physical space. But what we do is that we initially, when an application starts up, we create big staging files and memory map these staging files. And so we reuse the memory mapped regions even in the presence of fragmentation.
But the memory mapping there is directly against persistent memory.
Yes.
So what happens is you're converting a 2 megabyte map, which is what persistent memory defaults to in Linux, and you're converting it to a 4K map. So you're going to lose the huge page default, and you're going to convert that into small page access. Is that correct?
Right, so we don't destroy the 2 megabyte map after we do the relink. We keep the mapping around, and we just...
I think you're missing the point, right? The default in Linux is that persistent memory is mapped in 2 megabyte pages. The moment you start moving 4K pages around, you're going to destroy the ability to use a single 2 meg page. It's not like a disk where the memory manager handles that mapping in Linux for disks because we can move things around in the memory. Here, the memory and the disk are exactly the same thing, so you lose that. The other reason I was asking about this is because, of course, the persistent memory is interleaved, the configuration you're using is described, and that requires that you do it in 24K segments, or otherwise you're going to lose the interleaving. So again, do you know how much impact that has on your performance? Because what we saw when we were using Nova is that over time, we would see a degradation in the performance because of this fragmentation. And it could lead to cases where we saw 500% longer run times. But you just have to run it for a long time before you get there.
Right. So the answer to your first question about the huge page mappings is that we create the huge page mappings when it is already not fragmented, and we reuse the same mapping. We don't unmap it on relink and then remap it. So we can reuse the huge page mappings that we had initially when it was sequential, even in the presence of fragmentation after relink.
So let's take like another question offline, so we can give like other people like opportunity to ask.
Hi, Yudong from UC San Diego. Very impressive talk, and I appreciate. So I have a question about where actually the software overhead comes from. So as we discussed before, for read, it can be the kernel trap overhead or the VFS overhead. So actually, I'm more curious about, so do you have a specific breakdown, like what's actually in Nova, what percentage of the software overhead is actually contributed by just because of the system call overhead, and what's the percentage of the overhead is actually contributed comes from the VFS overhead?
Right. So I don't have like concrete numbers to support that, but it depends on each file system. For example, an example in ext4, for example, is you have to allocate a new block. You have to update a bunch of metadata such as inode and block bitmap and stuff on a simple operation like append, and all that leads to overhead. In the case of Nova, you have to log the entries and then update the tail pointer, flush it, and the overhead comes from those operations and also from the context switch from user space to kernel.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let's thank the speaker.